If you've ever tried free hand henna, you know the frustration. You start with a clear idea, but end up with lopsided flowers, messy lines, and a design that takes hours but still looks uneven. The solution is a structured system called bold floral and cutwork. It relies on specific, repeatable techniques that balance rapid application with high visual impact. In this masterclass, we will map the canvas of the body, engineer perfect symmetry for your centerpieces, and apply the exact contrast rules needed for your fillings. Flawless Mehndi is a precise architectural process. Planning the structure determines the beauty of the final result. This diagram shows the finger measurement rule, establishing safe starting zones. For the hand, start 3 fingers down from the palm base. For the leg, measure 3 to 4 fingers above the ankle bone. This prevents smudging when clients bend wrists or stand up. Next, you scale the artwork to your canvas. A thin hand requires delicate, smaller motifs, so the design doesn't overwhelm the space. But a broad hand, or a leg, demands dramatically upscaled, bold flowers to ensure the proportions look correct from a distance. To build bold flowers, we use this blueprint, a wide, slightly squashed X intersected by a vertical line. With this foundation, you pull petal shapes directly along the guidelines. The quadrants force each petal into the correct size and angle. If you skip the X method and guess the placement, the structure collapses. You end up with chaotic, unfixable gaps between the petals, leaving one side of the flower looking empty while the other is crowded. Invisible geometry acts as the skeleton for the artwork. Without that mathematical base in place, the aesthetic fails. Once the base flower is anchored, we extend the design using a classic vine, or bell. This is drawn as a continuous, flowing S-curve emerging directly from the petals. Along that S-curve, you add clusters of point leaves and smaller baby leaves. The direction of these leaves must flow upward and outward, following the natural vine momentum. This side-by-side comparison shows the exact difference between a standard leaf and a cutwork leaf. The cutwork leaf uses a thick, heavy outer boundary, while deliberately leaving a completely clean, unfilled gap in the center. When adding tiny baby leaves around these cutwork pieces, light pressure control is critical. Applying too much henna will cause those tiny details to bleed together into a messy, unrecognizable blob. Advanced detail comes from mastering this intentional contrast of negative space and heavy line weight. That contrast rule applies to the entire design. You must clearly separate your bold, thick structural outlines from the delicate, intricate work placed inside them. For large spaces, like bridal legs, you apply this by first partitioning the canvas into distinct sections using bold boundary lines, prepping the empty areas for fine filler. This graphic illustrates how we fill those spaces. Inside a heavy outer boundary, we drop in locked checks, hair-thin, perfectly uniform diagonal intersecting lines, along with tight spirals. You carry these exact contrasting motifs down into the fingers. Alternate the patterns across the digits. Use checks on one, spirals on the next, so the fingers complement each other without looking completely identical. Watch this extreme macro shot. Placing a heavy dot onto wet henna causes the liquid to spread, bleeding and ruining the pristine pattern. This bleeding effect is the ultimate, unfixable failure point for the majority of beginner designs. The rule here is absolute patience. You have to let your base layers and structural lines dry completely before applying central dots or the heavy accents along the vine. One rush drop of paste will destroy an hour of flawless architectural work. This image shows the final, unified result. The exact same structural techniques scale perfectly to create flawless designs on both the intricate canvas of a hand and the heavier space of a bridal leg. We anchored our centerpiece with the X framework, sized the motifs proportionally to the body part, and filled the partition spaces by contrasting bold outlines with delicate checks. Which element of this technique will you practice first? Mapping the bold hibiscus foundations or drafting those negative space cutwork leaves? Let me know in the comments. Mastery of Mehndi requires disciplined execution of placement, pressure, and patience.